Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to divide a daylily. So let's go. A lot of perennials prefer to be divided in the spring or fall months. However, when it comes to daylilies, they're very forgiving and you really can divide them any time of year. And you can see behind me, my Stella d'Oro daylilies are in their glory. They're in full bloom. I have them all around my yard. They are so easy to propagate or divide. And over the last many years, I've divided and moved them all around my yard. They really do prefer full sun, but they actually do well even in part sun conditions. In fact, much of my yard is part sun, and those daylilies thrive in those conditions. What I really like about my Stella d'Oro daylilies is that they're reblooming daylilies, which means if you're very good and diligent about deadheading your daylilies, they'll keep sending out blooms throughout the growing season. Just keep in mind that first initial flush of blooms, which is going on right now, will be the best show. And then later in the season, if you keep up with the deadheading, even though they'll be putting out blooms, they're not going to put on this kind of show. But it's still worth the effort of deadheading your daylilies. This video is going to show you how to dig up and divide a daylily. It doesn't have to be Stella d'Oro. It can be any variety of daylily. So let's go to another section of my yard and let's dig up my daylily. You can see with this particular daylily, it has another plant that's around it, and that's the fringe-leafed bleeding heart. And I just want to remove this daylily from here because I want the bleeding heart to just take over this section of my garden. And to dig up the daylily, I'm going to be using a large shovel. When it comes to digging up the daylily, you want to make sure that you're not digging right at the crown or the base of the plant. You want to dig out a few inches away from the base. And that's a pretty good sized plant. Let's go ahead and start dividing this plant up. So the first thing I'm looking for is, are there any pieces that are loose? And I can see this one here is loose, so I can just pull it apart. And now is a good time, because I didn't get to it earlier in the spring, to just remove any of the dead material from last year, as well as any weeds that might be in here. Okay, so let's get to the task at hand. When it comes to splitting up your daylily, what you want to do is you don't want to ruin the leaves that are here, because right now it is the middle of the season. And I still want these plants to look really nice because I'm going to be selling these as part of my backyard plant nursery. But perhaps you want to divide your daylilies and put them back in your landscape. So you still want them to look nice. So what I'm going to be using is, it's by Corona, and it's a hand pruning saw. You can also use a sharp knife. Just be careful with cutting because of the sharp edge. And then also you want to make sure that you sanitize any cutting tools or instruments before you cut into any of your plants, because you don't want to carry disease from one plant to another. You could use a large shovel if you wanted to. Just try to be careful not to ruin the rest of your plant. And I'm basically looking for good areas where I can make my cut, somewhere where it's split open already. And I'm just looking at this here, and I can see that this would be a great area right in between there where I could just go ahead and make a cut. Let's see if we can pull it apart. And I think that's a nice size that I would want to pot up and sell as part of my backyard plant nursery. But of course, I want to go ahead and just keep cleaning it up. Again, I'm using a used container. I have a nursery close by to me, and they have a recycling area. And those are great places to get used containers. Also, sometimes you can ask family members or friends. They'd be happy to get rid of any containers if you're looking for any. When it comes to replanting your daylily, you want to make sure that you're planting it deep enough so that the roots are definitely in the soil, in the ground. And you don't want to plant it too deep. You don't want to plant it like this deep, because it's important to have the bottom part of your plant exposed. Otherwise, it could rot. So you can see a lot of times with many plants, including this one, where there's like a lighter color here, but then it gets darker green there. That's a good indicator that you could plant it a little bit deeper, like right here, let's say, and you should be fine, because you do want your plant to be well supported in the soil. But for me, I'm just planting it in a pot. And then I'm going to take my soil and I'm going to pack it around the base of the plant. Any plant that you divide and move, especially if it is in the late spring, early summer, midsummer, you want to make sure you're doing it on a cloudy, rainy day, or you can do it on a day like today where it is sunny out. But with me, I'm going to be putting this pot in the shade, and I'm going to give it plenty of water, not just today, but over the next couple of weeks. And I'll make sure that it basically is getting the attention that it needs, because it is going to be stressed out a little bit from being dug up. The final thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to check for any blossoms that are spent or gone by, and I'm going to pick those off because I want my plant to look the best that it possibly can. So I'm just picking off any blooms that have gone by. And if I noticed that a seed pod was being created, I would want to remove that as well. These are the blooms, and right inside here, you can see that these are the buds. And there we have a nice looking plant that's ready for sale. Personally, I feel like daylilies get a bad rap, and I think they're beautiful, which is why I have so many of them in my garden. And I really think that they just need a little bit of extra care, but I think it's worth it in the end. For example, right now in my garden, I don't have a lot blooming, so I am so thankful I have these daylilies to give me that nice pop of yellow color. And I've never done it, but I've heard that when the leaves start to look really ratty in the middle of summer, you can just cut back the plant down to the base and it will reflush and give new growth from the base. So I'll definitely be experimenting with that a bit later in the season. But what I really like about daylilies in general is that they are so hardy, they're easy to divide. You can just move them all around your yard very easily, and then you have plenty to share with friends. If you like this video, I would love it if you would hit the like button below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time I put out a new video. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.